Now once the spark plug is all tightened, or you check for the torque in it, all you gotta do is take your new ignition coil, slide it right over. Hey, what's going on YouTube? John with LXPlore. Today I'm going to be actually replacing the ignition coils for my 2002 Lexus LX470. And this is something that you probably want to do with any of the 4.7 liter motors. So in order to actually access your ignition coils, what you'll have to do is take off the cover. So you have 2 bolts and 2 nuts. They're 10 millimeter. And then you'll have to take off the air filter. So really you could leave the air filter box in place, but remove all these components. So it's a couple of 10 millimeters down on the bottom. You have these vacuum lines, and then of course you need to disconnect it from the intake manifold. Let's go ahead and take that apart, and then I'll show you where the ignition coils are at. Replacing your ignition coils should be added to your list of preventative maintenance, and should be done when replacing your spark plugs. Now, ignition coils fail in 2 ways. Either complete failure and a lack of output, or intermittently, meaning the coil gets weak, output gets low, and the coil sometimes works and sometimes it doesn't. So you'll see that there are 4, and these are the easier ones I think to get to on the passenger side. So you have 1 here, 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 and then you'll have 4 on the other side. Now, you'll see that that one's already replaced, and I will explain the reason why that one was replaced at the end of the video. Essentially all you got to do is, you see this clip right here, is you depress the clip, give it a wiggle, right? Probably be easier with then pop it off. And so you'll do that for all of them. Take the 10 millimeter, and then I'll show you what to check for right after. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do one at a time so I don't pull them all out. And as you can see, this thing is pretty grody, right? The rubber down here is really hard, and then all this is all discolored. Looks like there's a hard line of whatever discoloration is there is right there. So make sure you keep this 10 millimeter. You'll check some of the forums, and the forums will say, hey, you know what, they've had problems with spark plugs backing out. What I did, I actually replaced these last summer prior to a trip, and I torqued them down just with a snug and a tug, but I also put anti-seize on them. But yep, that one's tight enough. This one is definitely much better shape. Shoot, that one's in pretty good shape too. The rubber's all nice. It looks fairly new. And it's a Denso. Ah, but there's a crack. It's a crack in there. Remember, I'm just checking to see that those are still torqued properly. So last summer we took a trip. And prior to the trip, I did some maintenance. I replaced the spark plugs, and I noticed that one of the ignition coils was worse than the others. I replaced that one with a brand new one, keeping in mind that in the future, I would replace them all. So on the driver's side, it's definitely the more difficult side. It has a couple brackets with a bunch of different vacuum lines and fuel lines. Obviously, we're not going to be removing fuel lines, but we can remove vacuum lines. So you'll see this this big vacuum line that I just pulled. It has this little capsule. I want to say that it definitely goes to the canister, which in turn goes to the intake manifold. There's another bracket down here that holds some of the fuel lines, and you can, and a wire loom down here. You can actually remove that bracket, unbolt it, and you can slide it out of the way so you can access the wire harness for the last 3 ignition coils on the driver's side. Extension, and those are also 10 millimeter, and just take them off. Not bad. You know, that last one that we checked had a crack in it. And that one is just a, oh no, that looks like a crack on the seam. But the rubber's good. Yeah, we'll see. That one looks pretty decent. I haven't found a service interval for these ignition coils. Typically they last approximately 150,000 miles. Ooh, not so good. Definitely rubber. Ooh, rubber is cracked and hard. Look at that. So when you see it's brown, you know that it's bad and it's been there for a long time. No cracks in it, but the rubber is bad, and it's about time that thing gets replaced. I'm wondering if that one just experienced a lot of heat. Now these back ones are going to be a little more tricky. You know, because you have these wiring harnesses that are already in place. You've already removed the bracket, so you can kind of go, so you can move it around. And it might be a little bit easier if you have a bunch of extensions. I think I'll have to use a universal on that rear one. This one much better. The rubber is softer. There, just that seam right there. It's probably just a seam. There's no crack right there. That looks good. Just make sure everything's in place. Got the vacuum line in, everything, all the fuel lines are still there, everything's snapped into their place, everything's tight. And then just put everything back the way you found it. So that side is all done. You have vacuum lines that need to hook up to the air box, and so everything goes reverse order. So super easy install, as you saw. Make sure that when you install it, I would disconnect the positive side of the battery, or I'm sorry, the ground side of the battery. And I mean, just anytime you're dealing with electrical is probably a good idea. And also, if you have, I would say 3 of these that, you know, they're probably all right, they'll at least get you to the next town, I would keep 3 on hand. Ignition coils, they fail. Or if you see somebody on the trail that's experienced the same issue, wouldn't be a bad idea to be like, hey, check this out, you could use this. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Yeah.
No, I don't like.
So did you bring it over here for me to fix?
No, I just wanted to
You've seen this, right?